Okay, let's see if I got this going. Sorry about that, guys. I made a commitment to actually stream for a whole week. Oops, hold on. Yeah, check it. Is it on? Maybe? Do you have two? You what? Do you have two? Two what? Two lives? It says two. Oh. Well, so the program quit on me twice, and so I'm like, I don't even know what's going on here. So maybe I am streaming twice in a row. That'd be kind of interesting. There we go.
It says waiting for Ken calls.
Oh. All right, well, seems like it's, who knows? Who knows? All right, guys. I'm going to put this down. I'm trying to figure all this out. So I decided to, well, I got to turn this audio down. So I decided to set up here in my garage, and I have a heater over there, and I just ran out of propane. So you've got the big coat, because I'm like, well, there it is. So I was going to hop out here, smoke a cigar, chat it up, and really I've made a commitment to go live, and so I'm going to try to work on that and just chat things up. Okay, hold on. Okay, so apparently I'm having technical difficulties. But there is an easy solution for this. I'm going to smoke a nice cigar here, and shout out to Josh at the Vault. I just moved over to, man, I'm getting a crazy lag here. I got to fix that. Maybe I'll just turn that off and speak right here. I have no idea why that's going on, and that is totally fine. Back to the story. I just moved over to Boise in the middle of October last year. There's really a longer story at foot there of why I decided to move, shut down everything in Dallas, was like, hey, I'm moving, I'm going to the mountains, and I did. And pulled it off in, it was like 30 days. It was just like, dude, I'm done. I'm leaving. I'm gone. That's that. And I love it over here. I mean, it is fantastic. Boise is so nice. And here's a fun fact. I've never been here before moving. I did just totally was like, you know what? I'm getting out of Texas, and I love Texas. I want to be clear. I love Texas. But there's a lot of weird stuff going on, guys. There's a lot of weird stuff. So I've been in Dallas for a little over a decade. And so 2020 was weird. It was strange. And I was just like, dude, I'm not going into another election year. I'm not going into another event. Whatever's going to happen, the city, to me, it's just not the same. The feel is not the same. The people are different. The feel is different. There's all sorts of reasons that caused me to say, you know what, like I'm moving. And so I did. And so that was September last year. I was actually planning on going to Mexico for around 6 months and then going to move over here. And I was just like, dude, like, it's fine. Let me go on over there, because I was really scared. I was like, oh, what if I don't like the winter? It's going to be gray. It'll be whatever. And it's just insane here. I think it's sunnier here than it is in Dallas, actually. And so that's been really cool. And it's cold as well, though. I don't know. The camera may not pick it up, but I can actually see my breath here just from doing this. And so I'm hoping my computer and everything will make it through here. So it gets cold over here, and it's nice though. Like, it's actually refreshing and it's really cool. And so trying to circle back to all this, sorry guys, I'm discombobulated with all the technical difficulties. I almost named this episode, You Got Skills or You Honey Dickin'? So we use Starlink over here because you don't have internet when you're outside of the city. You don't have internet. I don't have cell service for 50 minutes while driving out of the city and up to my house. Literally no cell service, and I love it. It's the best thing ever. But you know, there are trade-offs, and so so part of that is I get a way faster connection when I hardwire my computer. So I'm out here in the garage, and I've got the house hardwired up for some different things, and so I've got a cable to the downstairs and upstairs, but I didn't actually have a cable running to the garage. So of course, before I do this live stream, and that's one of the reasons why it's so late here, is primarily because I was like, oh crap, like I actually need an Ethernet cable running out to the garage so I can hook it up to my computer so I can actually live stream. Otherwise, like, the Wi-Fi just won't cut it. So I was doing that, and I'm like, you know, thinking, I'm like, man, I wish I just recorded this whole thing. I'm like, that would be the YouTube episode. You know, you got to pull all the tools out and, you know, go through the drywall. And I already had the stuff, but, you know, running the Ethernet cables through. And so, long story short, circling back around, I absolutely love it here. It's fantastic. But there are trade-offs. There are some significant trade-offs. So, we're gonna chat it up here. We're gonna go in circles. So, back to the cigar here. Met Josh down in Boise. Everybody is so nice here. This place is just incredible. It's fantastic. All the people are nice. They're wonderful. So he ended up giving me a little bit of tutoring on cigars, and I had not smoked that much before. Actually, I hadn't smoked at all. Let's be real. I had not smoked at all. And, but I was looking into it. And I was like, you know what? So I'm going down, doing a podcast with Brad Lee. I was like, he smokes. I was like, you know, I didn't want to be the novice that if I got invited out that, you know, that I had never smoked a cigar before. I'm like, dude, I don't even know which end goes where. And that's almost embarrassing, but it's actually really cool. There's so much more to cigars than I ever knew. And, you know, so Josh talked to me about it. He talked to me like how they grow in different regions and the different plant types and watering types and sun and how long they have to dry the plants and the tobacco. And I would say probably one of the main things that I remembered most, or I should say that impacted me most, is he was talking and he was like, you know, I think tobacco is really what led to America today. Because if we didn't have tobacco, if we didn't have these things, then we wouldn't have had the exports that we had during the Revolutionary War. We wouldn't have had the finances to actually finance the war. And so ultimately, it could be the whole reason that America is America today could be because of tobacco. And to me, I'm like, you know what? That is a great point. And guys, if y'all want to correct me on here, whenever anybody watches this, I'm doing the best I can, but this is literally like probably the 5th or 6th cigar I've ever smoked. But it turns out I love it. It turns out I love it. They turn out to be really nice. The downside, I'll say, of smoking here in my garage is that they go out. So it's cold up here, and normally that heater would be putting out a pretty good amount of heat right now, and we'd be solid. But right now it's not. So I actually gave my truck a wash, and I know it looks dirty down there, but when you live up in the mountains, you just kind of, you rinse it off, and it's good enough until things dry out, and then you give it a better wash and wax it up and all of that. But so I gave it a wash, and I thought, oh, I'm good. I was working on stuff, and it's towards the end of the day, and I'm sitting there and I'm washing it off, and I notice that the water starts to freeze on it while I'm washing it, and I'm like, okay, that's not good. That's definitely not good. And at least we have running water and blah blah blah. And I'm like, yeah, I gotta take this pressure washer down and actually get this stuff put up so I don't cause any damage to anything. Anyways, okay. So Nash texts me, dude, congrats. I'm going now. I think. Anyways, guys. So I was talking with my buddy Nash earlier, and so that's what led to this whole idea. I was like, dude, let's just go live. Like, who cares? So I am. So here I am. I'm in my garage, and I'm just hanging out because I think it's important to not get scared, and we all have fear, right? We all get scared over things, but I think when you put yourself out there and you're just like, dude, okay, so I look like an idiot. It's Friday night. It's 9:16 right now, Mountain Standard Time. And I was going to go live like an hour and a half ago, but I couldn't get my software to work, couldn't get things to work. But you know what? That's no excuse. It's no excuse. I said I was going to do it, so here I am. I'm doing it, and that's that. So I think that's really fun, though. It's really fun because people have this aversion to rejection, this aversion to, well, you looked like an idiot. You weren't prepared. You didn't this. You didn't that. And it's like, yeah, man, that's okay. I'll get better. Like, I don't do this every day. But give me 100 days of doing it, and I'll get better. And this is my first live stream since being up here. I shut down my other socials. Shut down my Instagram, my TikTok. For those of you who don't know me, I had larger followings on other platforms before. I'd been a male dancer for 6 years. I've been in a documentary that was on Netflix. That was, all over the place for a while. It seems like they pulled it for whatever reason. I looked for it the other day and I couldn't actually find it. I mean, I have DVDs and whatnot, ancient DVDs, but I've done some stuff. And I think people get worried. They get worried and they think, oh, I can't live stream. I can't do whatever. And it's like, bro, sit out, smoke a cigar, talk to the camera. and enjoy yourself. Because why not? Like, why wouldn't you enjoy yourself? Like, what is there to be scared of? Is there somebody on the other side of this camera that's going to be like, bro, you suck? It's like, okay, dude, why'd you tune in? You know? But there's probably a lot of other people on the other side of the camera that are like, man, you know what? I've been wanting to say some stuff, or I've been wanting to have some crucial conversations with people, or I've been wanting to level up my network, or I can't figure out how to ask for my needs to be met. And then you see some dude who's just like, dude, I'm just going to go for it. And it's like, yeah, because that's how you do it. I saw Tom Bilyeu post the other day, and he made a post, and he said, getting upset at your partner, and I'm paraphrasing, getting upset at your partner for not meeting your needs is like, without expressing that, is like getting upset at your server for not bringing food that you didn't order. And so it's partly communication. So I guarantee you, and sorry guys, I'm freezing out here. I've got, with all of this, is that learning to have these conversations, learn the perceived judgment stops more people than actual reality, in my opinion, aren't that important. Now, I want to clarify. I find people very important. It's not that. It's that most people just care about themselves. Most people are so absorbed with their reality that you're worried about putting a video up, and you're worried about talking about things, or just sitting there. Like, dude, you don't have to say a fucking word. You can just sit there and be like, but I did it. But so many people are worried about that they never do it in the first place. And that prohibits them from making the progress that they want. And it turns out that progress may be the only thing that matters in the first place. So, you know what amazes me? I truthfully believe we have the most talented people in the world here in America. We do. We've got, I don't know, what is it, 330 something million people in this country. But I believe we have the most talented people. Not because we're somehow, quote, better, but I think, at least for a lot of us, we have ambition, we have drive, we have a lot of the intangibles, if you will. The intangibles on what make people great. And that matters. Like, it really matters. I read the biography of Lee Kuan Yew, who was the leader of Singapore several years ago, and he talked about it. He talked about how Singapore basically went from just absolute poverty. And if you know about their history, they're like, tiny island basically at the tip of Malaysia. And small landmass, very small landmass. And they have this melting pot of culture where you've got Chinese, you've got Malaysians, you've got people that identify as Singaporeans, and you've got some Vietnamese, and you've got like this broad culture of people, and none of them got along together. And and he ultimately talks about how they went from being just like totally backwards, just swamp country, to one of the most preeminent centers in the Pacific Theater there. So, what he also talks about, though, is that Hong Kong is a financial center for Asia. It is like, I mean, obviously you've got Beijing and some other places, but the entrepreneurial spirit from Hong Kong, he said, Singaporeans, they just couldn't match. They couldn't match it because there was something innate there. There was something in the culture. And Singapore is great. I've never been, but big fan of the country. And he said, our people are great. Our country is great. And we've done great things. And we've come extremely far. But Hong Kong turned out to be more the financial center because they had more creativity. They had more entrepreneurial spirit. They had more people that were willing to push boundaries, break rules, whatever it may be. And that's what I think about the U.S. I think the U.S. has the best, most intrepid, valiant spirits out there that we are willing to just go to new frontiers. And I mean, that's the history of America in a certain sense. And it breaks my heart that we have so many people here that are lost, that struggle. And I've been one of these guys. If you don't know me, if you're tuning in and you haven't seen that, I mean, I've been the guy that struggled, that was lost and couldn't figure things out. And sometimes I still can't figure things out. But that's okay, isn't it? That is just absolutely okay. Because the most important thing is that it's to stick on the path of figuring things out. It's to stick on the path of being on purpose and being on truth. And for me, that's one of the most important things. That avoiding the false path, avoiding all of the stuff that society tells you are going to bring you happiness or to who you want to be, or all of the things that they sort of, it's like this misleading narrative that convinces people to just be cogs in the machine and be a good little boy and shut the fuck up, which I say in my book. It's a little politically incorrect. If you haven't seen it, here's the book. And it's disappointing. And I think we can do better. Because I believe we have the best talent in the world. I believe we have the best people in the world. I believe we have heart. And heart can go a long fucking way, man. It really can. And our people have heart. And that's part of our country. That's why I have my company that I just formed, Sovereigns, Not Subjects. Because we are meant to be sovereign as individuals. Every single one of us are meant to be sovereign. And that's how we were born. We were not born to be ruled by somebody else. We were not born to be under somebody else's thumb. We were born sovereign. We were never born to be subjects. And we also have to build ourselves along the way. We have to build ourselves along the way. So that's been a long journey, and it's been a long journey for me. But I'm really proud of it. And I'm really proud of you don't ever see a hero that doesn't have a dark side. You literally never see it in comic books. So if you see somebody who doesn't have a dark side, what does that tell you? Have they grappled with their shadow? Have they grappled with that darker side that's within them? And if they haven't done that yet, to me, that's a red flag. Like, I think as men, we grapple with that. And certainly, there are some men that grapple with it more. Like some men, they're built to be warriors. Some men are built to be prophets. Some men are built to be teachers. Some men are built to be, all sorts of things. And we need all types. But all of those types will grapple in one way or another with their darkness, with they will grapple with their humanity, with what they're capable of. And I think for a lot of men, they're capable of way more than they think. But just because you're capable of more doesn't mean that you necessarily should do more. And that's an important fact. Like, it's really important. Just because you can go beat somebody up or do whatever, that doesn't mean that you should. I think it's a responsibility to cultivate your strength as a man, and then to learn to hone that, to create discernment, create distinctions, to regulate yourself. And I don't mean overregulate, because I'm a big believer in feeling emotions. But at the same time, we shouldn't let these things direct our entire fate without some sort of analysis or thinking or control. Carl Jung had the saying, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. It's pretty good, right? So that's how most people are operating. They're operating from this idea that they're in control somehow. They're somehow directing their life, and they haven't realized that they're unconscious. Common term these days is subconscious. I think that's a little demeaning, personally, to your unconscious. Most people are like, oh, my subconscious. And I'm like, dude, there ain't nothing sub about your conscious. Matter of fact, your conscious may be a little sub to your unconscious. Because so much of what you do is a direct result of your unconscious. Just because you're unconscious of it, like ipso facto, if you were conscious of it, it would not be unconscious. But you're unconscious of it. It still controls your life, and it still directs so much of what you do on autopilot. And then you want to be like, oh, but it's my subconscious, because of some silly analogy that somebody came up with. I don't know. Little tangent there. Maybe it's right, maybe it's wrong. Who knows? Whether it is, whether it isn't, doesn't really matter that much. But I don't think it's a helpful model to think of your unconscious as subconscious. I really don't. Because your unconscious is so much more powerful. And trying to circle back here, that terminology matters, and understanding how things get done matters. You know, Albert Einstein, no. It was Graham Bell, I believe. I think it was Bell. Doesn't matter. One of the inventors. Pretty sure it was Bell. Used to hold some balls in his hands, and he would do that, and he would take a nap, but he wanted that nap to be light and lucid, especially when he was working on a specific problem. In that specific problem, he would put it in his mind before he like really went to sleep, right? But he didn't want to go too far to sleep. He didn't want to go too far out of his boundaries. And so he would put a ball there or two balls there, and he would hold on to them. And so he'd sort of drift off. But he couldn't drift off too much, because if he did, his hand would relax and those balls would fall and they would hit the floor and they would wake him up. So he wanted to go to this dreamlike state where the conscious and unconscious almost merge, and your unconscious can just feed up these answers. It's phenomenal, the answers that you can get and how many problems you can solve that you never thought that you'd be able to solve when you get to that state. And so you sort of, like, there's almost like a firewall, imagine it like that, between the conscious and the unconscious. And if you can almost dissolve that, you can tap into some really powerful stuff. So, like, for an example of that, kids don't have that. And there's a technical term for it. Let me see if I can look it up. I'm sure I've got a note on it here on my phone. I should remember it. I should be able to do it off of recall, but you know what? I shouldn't. I don't want to shit all over myself. But it's one of those things I've come across enough times. I'm like, I feel like I could remember it at this point. Let me see here. Well, I'm sure I got it here. Let's see. Nope, not that. Nope, not that either. All right, well, apparently it's here somewhere, but I'll come back with it tomorrow. But anyways, that firewall, kids don't really have it between your unconscious and your conscious. And so you wonder, why can kids learn so rapidly? Why can they absorb information so readily? And also, why can you be like, oh, hey, Johnny, there's a purple dinosaur over in the hallway. And he'll be like, oh, my gosh, let me go see the purple dinosaur. And then, of course, he goes over there and you come back and he's like, you lied to me. And you're like, of course, Johnny. Yes. Because you don't have a firewall, because you don't have that in your brain. And if you can get to that state, that's part of what flow state is, by the way. Like people talk about flow state. They're like, dude, I just live in flow. I do this in flow. And I'm like, flow state is really just the dissolution, the dissolving of the boundary between the conscious and unconscious mind. And so when you remove that, that's when you're like in pure performance, pure art form, pure just magnificence. That's like Michael Jordan when he's on his best game, LeBron, Tom Brady, whoever. Guys, I don't watch sports. Those are like the three people I know. Aaron Rodgers, maybe. I don't really know a lot of guys. But it is. I mean, that's what flow state is. It's like the merging of these things. And it's the continual and constant practice. And that's what's important. And so what a lot of people are looking for is really to tap into a certain state. They're looking to tap into meaning, to fulfillment, to purpose, and yet they have no idea how. And of course they don't have any idea how, because the entire trajectory of what they've been told is wrong. Like, oh, go get a bunch of loans and buy a bunch of shit that you don't need. I'm like basically quoting Fight Club here. Buy a bunch of shit that you don't need so that you can feel on purpose. I'm here to tell you, man, that ain't gonna get you on purpose. Like, your purpose is so much greater. And to buy into the idea that those are the things that will define your purpose or who you are or what you could do, it's just not true. You got way more in you. You have way, way more. And if you want to figure that out, just pick you up a copy, because I'm very proud of that book. I think I do a great job of laying out a strategy and a plan for getting results that I think most people ultimately are searching for, but they don't have a roadmap. They don't have a blueprint. They don't have the necessary things in place to do that. And so it's like, yeah, of course, obviously, of course you don't know how to get the results that you're wanting in life. Nobody taught you. Like, nobody taught me either, by the way. Like, my dad taught me a lot of things. My mom taught me a lot of things. I'm grateful to them both. They're wonderful people. I have a great relationship with both of them. And I would never want to disparage either of them. But I think both of them still struggled to get the things that they want. And my mom is way more clear on her values than my dad. But still, I don't think they've closed that gap. And learning how to close the gap where you have acceptance, where you can actually just exist and be with yourself. Like, I can just sit here and smoke this cigar and I have a great time. And I can be blissfully dissatisfied. I think, was it Ed Milet that said something like that? Like, I'm not done, man. Like, I'm just getting started. But I can be satisfied, but I can also be dissatisfied at the same time. I can recognize that I've got a lot more to give, as you do as well, by the way. You've got a lot more to give. Sorry, my stomach's rumbling. I need to eat. But you can also be satisfied along the way. You can have presence. You can have gratitude. There are fundamentals that will define how you perceive your journey. I talk about it a little bit in my book, and I'm like, because everybody's like, oh, the quality of your life is quality of your daily emotions. And I'm like, dude, imagine you were a soldier in World War II. What do you think? If you were a soldier in World War II, do you think it's the quality of your daily emotions that define your life? I don't think so. I mean, you're fucking miserable. You're in trenches, you're wet, you're cold, you're hungry. You got all these things. You ain't happy, man. You ain't happy. And yet you're fighting for something larger than yourself. It's like the idea of transcendence. You got all these guys on social media. They're like, "Bro, I've transcended. I'm beyond this stuff because I'm transcended. You're stuck in the little stuff." Give me a fucking break. If you have to tell somebody that you've transcended, shut the fuck up. So if you're a soldier in World War II and you're doing all that stuff, it's like, yeah, you're kind of miserable. You're writing letters home to your sweetheart. Maybe you're missing your kid. Maybe you're missing the birth of your kid. Maybe you're doing all these things, but you're doing something for something that you believe in, something that's a greater purpose, hopefully, that you believe in. I mean, unless you were drafted and, taken against your will. And I think if you look at a lot of the people that came back, they would say that that was one of the most important things that they ever did. And it was one of the most important things. And they draw so much meaning from their life as part of that journey. And I'm not here to say that it's right, that it's wrong, it's one way or the other. I don't want to get into those things. But I think there's more to the conversation when people say, the quality of your life is quality of your daily emotions. And I'm like, yeah, maybe. I mean, ultimately, it sort of is your daily emotions, but it's the meaning that you give them. It's that quality of conversation that you have with yourself. It's that understanding. And so I think that's important. Guys, I'm not going to lie. This is really difficult. I've not done this before, and I committed to spending an entire hour on camera. And if you've never done this, don't discount it, because I got a ring light up here, and I'm looking at a camera. That's all I got. And I'm just like, you know what? Let me just talk. And it turns out I'm a wordy motherfucker, by the way. I can talk, but I like talking to people. I'm a people person. I'm a people person, and it's a lot easier to talk when you got somebody on the other side of that. When you're not in a freezing cold garage, my hands are like, whew, it is dicey in here at this point. It is frigid, beyond frigid. But I'm going to get better. So if you're watching and you're like, what is this motherfucker saying? I'm going to get better. And you know why I'll get better? Because I'll keep doing it. And as I keep doing it, I'll get better. And it'll become normal to talk to a camera. And then as it becomes more normal, I'll be able to understand more, and I'll read the comments, and I'll get more in tune with things, and hopefully I won't have technical difficulties, so I'll do it earlier when I'm more on, when I've actually got some perception to be there. And at this point I'm just like, you know what, it's late at night, and I'm just going to do it. But there's a principle there that can translate over to you as well, that I went back and I was mentioning earlier, that Everybody's scared to fail. Everybody's scared to get on camera. Everybody's scared of the perceived judgment. Everybody's scared of the perceived bullshit. Shut the fuck up and just do it. Right? I mean, that's it. So, you were built for adaptability. There's an inherent belief there. Like, let me ask you, do you believe that if you do something and you do it repeatedly over and over again, that you will get better? I mean, that's like a foundational belief. You didn't come onto the planet learning how to walk. You didn't come on learning how to speak. You didn't learn, how to wipe your ass. But you know now. I was smoking cigars last night. And I was lighting one up, and I was like, oh man, I'm not really, maybe this is how it goes. Maybe it's not. Who knows? One of the guys next to me, his name's Earl, he said, I didn't come into this world knowing how to cut or smoke a cigar, and I'm still learning. And he's older than me, and he's been smoking for a while. And what a great attitude, right? Like what an attitude to have, to say, you know what? I didn't come into this world knowing how to do this, but I can learn. And so if that's the case, then what could you learn if you had to learn something in the next 90 days? Imagine that. So I'm working on some stuff right now. Building out my offers. Building out my funnels. Connected, I'm not really sure.